Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today it's going to be a top 10 moments for the Book of Boba Fett first episode. If you guys are new here to the channel, we're still giving away a lightsaber. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos to enter to win that. It's as simple as that. So click that subscribe button, check the links in the description below, share the video, like the video, all that stuff. I want to hear your favorite moments from this first episode of the Book of Boba Fett. Let me know in the comments section. Now, we've got give you a spoiler warning because we are going to be talking all about this episode, so make sure you watch the episode first, or if you don't mind spoilers, then continue. But if you haven't seen it yet, this is your chance to stop. 3, 2, 1. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and talk about Chapter 1, A Stranger in a Strange Land. First thing I want to talk about is there was supposed to be like a whole bunch of hype about this, and that there was going to be this huge spoiler within like the first 20 minutes of the first episode that was going to be like on par with like seeing Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian and all this other stuff, and I didn't feel like they did that at all. I felt like it was just more of a standard first episode, a good opening, a good intro into this new kind of chapter for Disney Plus and this story about the Book of Boba Fett. And I didn't feel like there was that one, oh my gosh, aha moment. But there was definitely some cool stuff, and I'm going to give you my top 10. So first off, let's talk about tribute. Number 10 is tribute. We kind of early in the episode, you see Fennec Shand and Boba Fett kind of going to the throne room as all of these local bosses and leaders show up to pay tributes to this new crime lord, and it's funny because some people he used to work for, and now they're kind of working for him, and so lots of credits. People are just they know that he has replaced Bib Fortuna, who had then kind of taken the spot of Jabba the Hutt, so he's sort of that new crime lord in town. You even see Doc Strassi, who is a transition that I guess Boba used to work for, that kind of leaves him with some threats, saying, may you never leave Mos Espa. And this is, by the way, Mos Espa, where episode 1 took place. You're going to see some parts of the city as later on when we kind of go into the town. Very cool stuff. Another interesting thing about the tribute is that if you look closely at all of the credits he's given, these are not Imperial credits. These are New Republic credits. First off, they're not rectangular, and second off, they also have that kind of New Republic or Rebel logo on them. So that is kind of just an interesting little tidbit about like the subtle changes that kind of make a big difference. And so I kind of really dig this. We're used to seeing Imperial credits, which are more like rectangular in a lot of cases, but here we got New Republic credits. Republic credits, they're no good here. We like the Imperial ones. Yes? No. All right, that's my Watto impression for the video. No more impressions, hopefully. So number 9 is Gamoreans. We actually see some Gamoreans. This isn't the first time we've seen Gamoreans on Disney Plus. There was a little bit of Gamorrean fighting shown in The Mandalorian, but these two Gamoreans were Gamoreans that worked for Jabba the Hutt and also worked for Bib Fortuna, and they kind of talk about how loyal they were, and these guys actually seem pretty cool. Boba decides not to kill them, and since they were so loyal, he offers, well, would you be loyal to me? And they both they take a knee and they kind of pledge themselves to Boba Fett, and that kind of works out because you do see them throughout the episode. I kind of liked that, and because we're going to get a little bit more Gamorrean action with these guys, and it's nice to see like different alien races, especially people that are going to be recurring characters that will show up in new episodes. Number 8, Mok Shaiz is the mayor. And he did not come, but he sent his major domo. So this guy, this is hilarious. I absolutely loved this scene. This guy stole the scene. He was so gracious, and the mayor presents to you his warmest welcome, and so like Fennec Shand and Boba Fett are talking this whole scene, and like wait, so he doesn't have any tribute? Oh, his warmest welcome, And he's like, all right, well, next. He's like, oh, there is one matter. And this guy's basically says, the mayor wants a tribute from you. And Fennec Shand's like, can we just kill him? And I thought we were about to have a This Is Sparta kind of moment in this scene. But Boba is gracious and decides to let the major domo live. And then this guy's like, oh, okay, well, the mayor might not, I thank you, but the mayor may not see it that way. And he couldn't be here, but you may hear from him again. So it's basically a veiled threat as this major domo kind of leaves. And of course, we're going to see them. This also is an important scene because it does kind of set up the mayor Mok Shaiz as sort of an important character. And there's some great like lines here too, because like Boba's looking to like tribute. I'm the crime lord. He's supposed to pay me. So like really great scene there. I kind of dug it. Number 7. The Sanctuary. The whole scene with the Sanctuary was a big part of this episode, especially as they're walking into town. There is, they walk into town, and that's actually, they talk about that he should be carried, and he wasn't carried on board and it's a big deal. And Fennec Shand even says this line that becomes important for the episode, but I feel like it's going to be important for the entire series. And she says, things would go a lot smoother if you accepted their ways. And it becomes like, I think, a really important line. So I think that's maybe if you had to put up a catchphrase for at least maybe, I don't know, the whole series, but maybe at least the first kind of couple episodes of the series, I feel like that's a defining sort of plot point that's going to be the instrument of a lot of the difficulty that Boba Fett is going to face, because he doesn't exactly accept their ways, but he does kind of run that one by Fennec Shand a little bit. So they have some funny bits here with the Sanctuary. We actually get a look at some Twi'leks, and usually it's always just the female Twi'leks that are like the sexy kind of servitude or slaves or seen kind of as entertainers and very woo-woo, but we actually get a male version, and we've seen male Twi'leks before, but I don't think we've seen them kind of in a service role, an exotic kind of service role, so it's kind of nice having a little bit of equal opportunity eye candy for whichever you prefer, whether you're more of the orange fan or the green fan, and it appears that this place, the Sanctuary, caters to all sorts of things. We actually got a lot of really cool things. So like the Sanctuary is kind of like I don't know if we want to call it like a brothel or a gambling place, but it's like it's a place where you can drink. It's like a bar. It's got gambling. It seems like it has lots of other relaxing forms of entertainment. So it's kind of meant to be like a one-stop shop for all kinds of debauchery. So certainly up a crime lord's alley. And of course, Boba had to go here to kind of check in on things. We get Max Rebo. Max Rebo in the house. Really great throwback, really great nod to the Return of the Jedi playing music in Jabbas Palace. We don't see Sy Snoodles, but I'm curious if this is meant to be Figrin Dan here. From Figrin Dan and the Modal Nodes. They also have a droid drummer that's cool there, but a really fun little tidbit that you may have missed is during this scene when they're in the Sanctuary, there's a song playing. And it's actually a different version of the same song we heard in the cantina that Figrin Dan and the Modal Nodes plays. But it's more of, it's a little bit like a different version. It's a little bit more tropical kind of sounding, but it's definitely like the same song. So like that's really cool. So go back and watch this scene again and listen to the song they're playing, because that's something that I think a lot of people may have missed. Very cool. Also, a pretty fun little tidbit about the bartender that they showed. He's very similar, while not the exact same color scheme, it looks a very similar version of Rex, which if you guys have ever been to Disney and gone on like the Star Tours ride, he was the pilot for that. They've also repurposed him in Galaxy's Edge. He's like a DJ now in the cantina there, or R3X, or they can just call him Rex for short. So that's kind of a deep cut for people who may have seen him in the theme parks. So I thought that was pretty cool. On to the our kind of next part of the Sanctuary, because this is kind of a big one. We have basically the matron of this place, who's Garsa Whip. And she is she's actually very receptive. She seems like a nice character. She's definitely like the lady of the establishment, and she's like, oh wait, I didn't see you get carried in. And she's like, no, I walked on my own 2 feet. But she is happy to present tribute, and it's just like, well, and she even says, you're always welcome, as it is yours now. So like this is his place, and it seems like a place that would mesh well under the careful eye of a crime lord. Funny little tidbit here. This is actually the actress playing Garsa Whip is Jennifer Beals, who you may remember from the 1983 movie Flashdance, classic movie from the 80s. That's the scene where she's kind of on the chair and like pulls the water down all over herself. Like that's dude, that's like almost a 40-year-old movie. She's looking fantastic. So Twi'lek looks very good on her. So pretty cool. I didn't know. My wife actually caught that when we were watching, and she's like, that's Jennifer Beals. And I'm like, good eye on you. So yeah, that's kind of a nice little tidbit. All right. let's move on. There's a Swoop Gang, and you might have seen the Swoop Gang in the trailer if you've seen any of the trailers, but we do get a little bit of a flashback to this Swoop Gang that is raiding moisture farms and killing their people and marking moisture farms with what appears to be graffiti or the Swoop Gang's symbol, like this kind of double L or double-bladed symbol. This is kind of just a little interesting entry point to a gang that is certainly probably going to show up very soon. This is there were a lot of swoop bikes featured in the trailers, and there's some certainly important characters that are likely to show up riding swoop bikes, and I think it's always just cool to see swoop bikes because they're pretty groovy. But this was kind of important. This was part of a flashback, so it's meant to establish that this gang has been kind of running around Tatooine, causing a lot of terror for a long time, and they're really shown in a negative light here. So they're clearly bad guys, kind of set up. Number four, prisoners. I'm sorry, this is number 5. Number 6 was the swoop bike. Number 5 is prisoners. So during a flashback, we get a kind of a look at part of what brought Boba to where he is, and kind of how he sort of had that big old gaffy stick that you may have seen in Mandalorian Season 2, and that he spent a lot of time with Tusken Raiders as a prisoner. And this is kind of a really interesting scene, and this is broken up throughout the whole episode. We get a lot of bits of his time as a prisoner. He is kind of tormented by a child, and a lot of the kids of this kind of town are messing with him, and it definitely seems like this child is likely maybe the son of the chief or daughter of the chief. It's not really, you got no really idea what gender any of the Tuskens are, but for intents and purpose, I'll just say son of the chief, because the chief kind of keeps watch on him, and this kid seems like he's really eager to please his elders or to please his dad. That's kind of the vibe that I got off of this. But he is kind of tormenting Boba a little bit, but Boba quickly can grab that staff out of his hand, and he's just like, "Look, kid, the only reason you're doing this is because I'm chained up, and there's a lot of other people around here." And so there's also a Rodian that's with him, and this Rodian is such a little punk. He is such a little punk. Boba's able to break free, kind of gets his hand ties loose, and starts to make a run for it. And when this Rodian calls out and calls the guards, he's escaping, and it's kind of in classic cowardly Rodian. Rodians are stereotypically cowardly, and so part of his captivity here is to deal with this other prisoner that has no interest in escaping whatsoever, which is pretty interesting. So Boba makes a run for it, and a really cool thing is they chase him down pretty well enough. They have the dogs and all of that. He kind of scuffles with the dog, and then they kind of have him surrounded, and all of a sudden the chief is there, and they all kind of surround him, and the chief kind of signals his master at arms or his man at arms or his number 2 guy, who kind of stands up and kind of fights Boba. Now Boba's only got the little gaffy stick, the kid's stick. And so he's going up against this guy. Boba's not a match for this guy, at least at this point, but it appears that this is kind of maybe part of how he's learned how to handle a gaffy stick, because he had to have probably spent a long time with these guys, because you think from the end of Return of the Jedi all the way to Mando Season 2, you've got multiple years. He may have, and maybe we'll learn more about this, he may have stayed with these guys for a very long time, because the chief has his eye on this guy. He doesn't know too much about him, but he's for certain he has his eye on this guy. So I thought it was pretty cool that all the the prison scenes and the prison break and then the honorable fight, they could have just killed him, but they're keeping him alive, right? Was there a reason for that? Was there a reason were they trying to break him? Were they trying to see if he was good enough to join them? And that's kind of the vibe you get a little bit from when he's prisoner by the Tuskens. Next up, number 4, the ambush. So after the sanctuary, they're in the city of Mos Espa. We've got all of these kind of ninja dudes, these ninja guards, these assassins that kind of just jump out of nowhere and surround Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. They've got these light shields, which I really dig the light shields, by the way. And then they've got these kind of electro vibro staves or vibro swords or whatever you want to call them. I think they're vibro swords, but really, really cool, electro cattle prod weapons. And this is a kind of a tough kind of situation that they would find themselves in. We get a great action scene out of all of this, but it really kind of opens up and it kind of stresses a little bit of a hopelessness for Boba. They're completely surrounded. He tries to shoot a blast out, and it just kind of ricochets off of the shields. And that's an interesting thing that I'm going to bring up because of this particular scene. Made me realize there's not a lot of like pistol shooting. There's not a lot of guns in this episode. There are some projectile weapons, but you don't see Boba, firing a pistol or firing a blaster rifle. You see a lot more martial combat, and of course, and part of that is because of these shields. And I wonder if part of that is just they like decided, maybe it's just less interesting seeing people just shoot at each other over and over again, and it's a lot more entertaining to see. Some of the martial arts that can be done, especially with Fennec Shand. You get this great rooftop chase that happens here. And so I thought that was really interesting. Now, I think these assassins were probably sent by the mayor. I think that the insult of not giving any tribute to the major domo and just saying, "Oh, our gift is we'll let you live," was kind of seen as an insult. So the mayor is trying to flex on Boba here by sending these assassins. It's not confirmed exactly who they were, but of course the Gamoreans come to the rescue, and proving that they will indeed be loyal to Boba. They do save Boba and Fennec, kind of creating an opening and allowing them to escape. We get a really cool scene of the wrist rockets firing. Watch those wrist rockets from Boba, and this is one, like I said, we do see some projectile weaponry, but it's definitely a heavy focus on a lot more like hand-to-hand combat and weapon-based and melee combat, and a lot with Fennec and the rooftop chase. Really cool that she kind of, they basically get all of these assassins and kind of take care of them. So it's a kind of a nice episode. But Boba's pretty much hurt during the entire fight. And this brings us to point number three. Number three, Bacta. Is there something wrong with Boba Fett? And that's an interesting question, because I think they showed him in Bacta in the trailers a little bit, and certainly during his time with the Tusken Raiders and even going into Mandalorian territory, Boba's had scarring. Look, he's been through a lot. He was in the Sarlacc. He was roasting in the sun for the Tusken Raiders. He's been through a lot. He's had a lot of damage. But could there be long-term consequences to this? He spends a lot of time, almost like a Darth Vader kind of scene, where he's in the Bacta, like soaking like Vader often does. And I think this is certainly meant to evoke some of those Darth Vader type of vibes. But the interesting thing is, it's not just the beginning of the episode. You kind of open up on him, and this is kind of one of the things that leads into a lot of his flashbacks and memories. He has these dreams when he's in the Bacta. So the Bacta is significant, but it's not something he only does once. After the battle at the ambush, in Mos Espa, he is wounded. He gets kind of prodded in the side, and the Gamoreans rush him back to the Bacta like really, really quick, and like, oh, return him. He needs to get back here immediately. And it kind of gives off some vibes that maybe there's more to this than him just trying to heal that long-term scarring damage. Like, he kind of got hit once or twice with like a cattle prod. Does he need to go in Bacta right away? Bacta's like, just for people who might not know, like, Bacta's a big deal. All right, it's not something that's cheap. And it's not something that's too common. Like the High Republic kind of goes into this in a little bit more detail, but they didn't always have Bacta, especially if you play like any old Republic games. Like Bacta was rare, and there was a lot of like Kolto and stuff like that you would take for routine healing. But like to soak in like a Bacta tub like that is kind of a big deal, and it makes you wonder if that's not going to be like a weakness for Boba Fett. A lot of storytelling elements they like to have. A critical weakness for the hero, especially if the hero is pretty powerful. And what if that weakness is he can't be away from Bacta for too long, or maybe he's got some kind of cancer or terminal sickness that he's on borrowed time. Maybe it's even an artifact of the cloning. Right? There was a flashback, and all of his flashbacks, there was a little flashback to Camino. They're trying to remind you, don't forget this dude is a clone, right? And I think that's important. Maybe there's some kind of cloning defect that is hurting him, and that the Bacta kind of helps prolong. Maybe this isn't meant to be a series that goes 7 seasons. Maybe he's got a definitive end to his story, and the Bacta is kind of one of the things kind of pushing that end out just as far as they can. It's going to be interesting. On to number 2. earning his Gaffy stick. So we're kind of going back to the prisoner time, but this is a whole separate flashback where him and the Rodian are instructed to dig for like these water fruits, these fruits in the sand, or these pods in the sand that have water in them, kind of like almost like underground cactus balls or something to that effect. And this is a really interesting scene because the kid really has very little power over him, but he also has the dog there with him. And Boba's like, fine, I'll cooperate until they find this amazing, beautiful beastie in the sand. I have a feeling this creature is probably from some obscure comic that we've seen before. It looks like something that I have seen before, but I couldn't tell you what it's called. If you know what this guy's called, let me know in the description. Or then again, it could just be an all-new creature, but it just looks too campy to me to be something that they created all new. It looks like this was meant to be an Easter egg for some obscure monster from either like Star Wars Galaxies or an old comic book or something to that effect. But this guy gets kind of woken up. He was sleeping under the sand. So this scene is very much like how Jabba the Hutt and Leia was kind of strangling him, and I just love that it evoked that exact same sort of mentality and scene, and it was definitely meant to kind of remind you of Return of the Jedi and remind you of, maybe Boba saw a little bit of that happening through the window or not, but this is very cool, kind of nice throwback Easter egg. And of course, that does lead to the kid bringing this monster's head back to his village. And it's like this was his rite of passage. He's like, I got my first kill, Dad. I got my first kill. And of course, Boba's there with him. His chains are broken, so metaphorically and physically. And so he's walking back too, kind of triumphant. Because not only did Boba help this kid get his rite of ascension, he also saved the kid's life. And so like the dog's not even attacking him too. So like he kind of won over the kid, and he won over the dog, and then he won over the chief too. So the chief's like, all right, you helped my son become a man and a true member of the tribe. We accept you now. Here, drink some of this water from one of these water pods. So chief offers him a drink, and then that's kind of, that's like the big kind of end to what this episode told us of his time with them. And of course, it seems like he probably stays with them for a long time, learns the Gaffy stick, because when we see him in Mando season 2, he's got a full Gaffy stick, not a kid's Gaffy stick anymore. So pretty cool. I don't know if they'll show us any more of his Tusken time, but I wouldn't be surprised if they showed us a little bit of him training with a Gaffy. And because I do think we'll see more melee combat in the rest of the season. All right, and that's going to take us to number 1. Escaping the Sarlacc. This was early on in the episode, was definitely my number 1 scene. We open up at like the thing we've all wanted to see. We've read about it in the books. We've seen fan films. We've like read fan fiction about it. We've heard stories. Your buddies have told you how they were sure how Boba got out of the Sarlacc, but we had to see it, right? And so we finally get to see it. Like he's just hanging there in all of this intestinal fluid and lining of the stomach walls for this Sarlacc. He's got the acids all over him, and it's disgusting. And there's toxic fumes in there. So depending on, if you look close enough, you can see the gas. And so he's like hacking up, and I thought, is he drowning in fluid? But it's also this toxic gas that is like suffocating him and kind of making him sick. So I think part of the damage that he's got to him is probably also in his lungs. He's probably got some lung damage from all of this gas. He finds the stormtrooper that's also dangling and is able to take his kind of life support system and take some of that oxygen, hooks it into his. He's like, he can finally catch his breath, So I thought that was pretty clever, kind of stealing, ravaging from the dead and taking some of his supplies. He obviously doesn't need them anymore. And then once he's caught his breath, he's got his second wind, sticks that arm through the stomach lining and fires off the flamethrower, cooks the Sarlacc from the inside. Talk about heartburn. Bada boom, bing. Dad joke, right? Okay. But yeah, so he gives this the galaxy's best case of heartburn for the Sarlacc, and then it manages to climb out, and we kind of get that emergent, and I'm sure this is going to be like the 76th version of Boba Fett that Hasbro, the Black Series, puts out. Sand-covered Boba Fett. And I think this is character number 2 that will honestly say, I don't like sand. It's coarse, and it's dry, and it gets everywhere. It certainly got everywhere on Boba Fett, but we got to see Boba escape the Sarlacc. Great moment in this episode. And That's my top 10. I want to hear your favorite moment from this episode. Let me know down in the comment section. Don't forget to enter to win the lightsaber giveaway. Become a subscriber. Leave a comment. It's as simple as that. If you're already a subscriber, you're already halfway there. I will talk to you guys soon. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons for helping making this channel possible. I will talk to you guys soon. Let's talk some more about the Book of Boba Fett. Don't forget, if you are escaping a Sarlacc, bring an extra air supply with you. Maybe you won't have to, steal from a stormtrooper. He might have had bad breath.